The average American worker takes less than 7 minutes to shower, running on autopilot while mentally rehearsing the day's meetings, and steps out still carrying the tension they woke up with. Meanwhile, the average Japanese worker spends over 20 minutes in a bath each evening, and Japan reports less than half the rate of stress-related sleep disorders, and a fraction of the cardiovascular disease deaths we see in the West. This is not about hygiene. It is about a completely different relationship with water, heat, and silence. We have turned bathing into a rush chore. The Japanese have kept it as a sacred medical treatment that costs almost nothing and works every single night. Today I am counting down 20 Japanese bathing habits, from the obvious to the shockingly subtle, that systematically melt away stress and pull toxins out of your body. Some of these are so simple you will kick yourself for not doing them. Others are so counterintuitive they will change everything you thought you knew about getting clean. By the end, you will never look at your bathtub the same way. Number 20. They wash their entire body before entering the tub. This is the non-negotiable rule that every Japanese household follows, and it is the one that first shocks Western visitors. You do not get into the bath to clean yourself. You get into the bath already completely clean. In a Japanese home, you sit on a small stool outside the tub. Use a handheld shower head or a bucket, and scrub every inch of your body with soap and a washcloth until there is not a single trace of suds or dead skin left. You wash your hair, you rinse it thoroughly, you scrub behind your ears, between your toes, under your fingernails. Only then do you step into the water. The reason is both practical and profound. The bath water in a Japanese home is shared by the entire family, one after another, so it must remain pristine. No one wants to soak in someone else's soap scum. But more importantly, this separation of washing from soaking changes what the bath actually does for your nervous system. When you wash in the tub, your brain associates the bath with work, with scrubbing, with a task that needs to be completed. Your mind stays in chore mode. Your shoulders stay tight because you are physically exerting yourself. When you enter already clean, the bath becomes pure restoration. There is no agenda. There is no to-do list. There is only hot water and stillness. I remember the first time I stayed with a friend in Osaka, and she watched me head toward the tub with shampoo still in my hair. She physically blocked me with her arm and said, very gently, as if I were a child who did not know better, "Please wash first." I felt embarrassed. I had been bathing incorrectly my entire life and did not even know it. And then I felt the difference. I sat on the little plastic stool in her bathroom, which was so small my knees nearly touched the wall, and I scrubbed every inch of my body with a focus I had never applied to bathing before. When I finally stood up and stepped into the tub, the water was silent. There was no film, no cloudiness, no sense that I was stewing in my own residue. It was, for the first time in my life, a bath that felt like medicine. The water embraced me rather than simply containing me. I could close my eyes and sink into it without the faint disgust that usually lingers in the back of the mind when you know you are soaking in dirty water. That feeling of pristine immersion is something every human deserves to experience. Number 19. They soak at precisely 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees Celsius. That is the number, not 102, not 106, 40. Japanese households are obsessive about this temperature, and most modern Japanese bathtubs come with digital control panels that heat the water to exactly that point and hold it there for hours. You press a button, a pleasant chime sounds, and the tub maintains 40 degrees with a precision that would impress a laboratory technician. Why this specific number? A study out of the University of Toyama tracked cortisol levels in participants before and after bathing at varying temperatures. And the drop in stress hormone was most dramatic at 40 degrees Celsius. Slightly cooler, and the parasympathetic activation was weaker. The blood vessels did not dilate enough. The muscles did not fully release. Slightly hotter, and the body actually produced a stress response, releasing more cortisol because it perceived the heat as a threat. The heart began to race. The skin flushed with emergency blood flow. 104 degrees sits right in the Goldilocks zone, where your blood vessels dilate. Your circulation surges, and your brain begins releasing a flood of oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released during a hug. At this temperature, your body feels safe. It does not need to defend itself. It can simply let go. But in America, we tend to run baths as hot as we can stand, thinking more heat equals more relaxation. We turn the tap as far left as it will go. We lower ourselves in with gritted teeth, waiting for our skin to adjust to the scalding water. And we are wrong. We are stepping out of the tub with our hearts still pounding, and our skin red and angry, having triggered a fight or flight response without even knowing it. We think the heat relaxed us, but our nervous system is still on high alert. The proof is in how we feel 10 minutes later, jittery, slightly dizzy, reaching for a glass of cold water to cool down from the inside. Try 104 degrees tonight. Use a thermometer. A simple kitchen thermometer works perfectly. Do not guess. You will feel the difference within 3 minutes. Your body will recognize the temperature as safe. Your breathing will slow on its own. You will wonder why you ever thought hotter was better. Number 18. They use a specific Japanese bath salt called Unohana. Unohana is not a scented bath bomb. It is not Epsom salt dyed lavender and sold in a pretty jar for $12. It is a naturally occurring mineral precipitate harvested from hot springs across Japan, and it looks like tiny, off-white pebbles or flakes that dissolve slowly in hot water. These flakes are the crystallized essence of volcanic hot spring water, dried and packaged with nothing added and nothing removed. They contain a precise blend of calcium, magnesium, sodium, and trace sulfur compounds that mimic the exact mineral profile of an onsen, a natural hot spring. When you drop a handful into your tub, you are not adding a fragrance. You are reconstituting ancient mineral water that has been filtering through volcanic rock for thousands of years. A 2021 study from the Hot Spring Research Institute of Kanagawa Prefecture found that bathing in Unohana-infused water increased skin hydration by over 30% and measurably reduced muscle stiffness in participants with chronic lower back pain. The minerals penetrate the outer layer of the skin and bind to proteins in the epidermis, creating a barrier that locks moisture in long after you have drained the tub. But the part I find most fascinating is what it does to the water itself. Unohana makes the water feel silkier, heavier, as if it is holding you. Regular tap water feels thin and sharp against the skin. Unohana water feels rounded, almost velvety, like the water has been softened from the inside. My first time using it, I sat in the tub and actually laughed out loud because the sensation was so different from a regular bath. The water felt alive. It felt like the difference between touching a polyester blanket and touching silk. When I stepped out, my skin was not dry and tight the way it usually is after a hot soak. It felt coated in something protective, like a very thin, invisible layer of silk. I did not need to apply lotion afterward, which for someone with chronically dry winter skin felt like a miracle. You can find Unohana online now, imported from Japan. And a single bag lasts for months because you only need a small handful per bath. It is one of those products that, once you try it, makes you angry that you spent years buying scented bath products that did nothing but smell nice. Number 17. They bathe at the same time every single night. This one sounds boring. It sounds like the kind of advice your grandmother would give, and you would ignore because it lacks the thrill of a biohacking secret. But there is a reason Japanese households treat bath time as a fixed point in the daily schedule, usually between 8 and 10 at night, and almost never skipped. It is as immovable as dinner, as non-negotiable as sleep. The human circadian system is deeply responsive to body temperature fluctuations. In the late evening, your core temperature naturally drops by about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to signal to your brain that sleep is coming. This drop is one of the most powerful sleep signals the body produces. A warm bath artificially raises your temperature first, and then the rapid cool-down afterward, as you step out into cooler air, amplifies that natural drop. You are essentially hacking your own thermostat, tricking your body into a steeper temperature decline than it would produce on its own. Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin actually tested this and found that a warm bath taken 90 minutes before bed significantly decreased the time it took to fall asleep. Participants who bathed fell asleep faster and spent more time in deep sleep than those who did not. But the consistency matters more than the bath itself. When you bathe at random times, sometimes at 6 p.m., sometimes at midnight, sometimes not at all, your body never learns to associate the ritual with the wind down. The bath becomes just another event in a chaotic schedule, rather than a biological signal. The Japanese approach treats the bath as a circadian anchor. Your brain starts releasing melatonin before you even turn on the water, because it knows what is coming. The anticipation itself becomes part of the relaxation response. I tried this for 2 weeks straight, same time every night, 9:15 p.m. on the dot, and by day 4 I was yawning in the tub. My body had learned the schedule faster than my conscious mind had. By day 10, I was asleep within 10 minutes of my head hitting the pillow, a personal record. Before this experiment, I would lie in bed for 30, sometimes 45 minutes, my mind circling through the day's anxieties. After 2 weeks of consistent bathing, the insomnia simply evaporated. It was not a gradual improvement, it was a switch that flipped. Number 16. They practice Tatnu, the art of the cold air reset. If you have ever watched a Japanese film or documentary about onsens, you have seen this but probably did not register what was happening. A person soaks in the hot water, then gets out and sits on a small stool or a rock, completely naked in the cool open air, for anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes. They are not drying off, they are not checking their phone. They are just sitting, breathing, letting the cold air hit their damp skin. Their eyes are half closed. Their expression is blank, not in a vacant way but in a deeply peaceful way. Like someone who has temporarily left their body and is floating somewhere just above it. This is called Tatnu, and it is considered the peak of the bathing experience. The moment when the mind goes completely blank and the body enters a state of deep meditative stillness. The word itself is difficult to translate directly, but it conveys a sense of being perfectly aligned, perfectly balanced, as if every system in the body has come into harmony. The physiological mechanism is simple. Alternating between hot and cold triggers a vascular pump. Blood vessels dilate in the heat, then constrict in the cold, then dilate again when you get back in the hot water. This rhythmic pumping flushes metabolic waste out of your muscles and organs far more effectively than a steady hot soak alone. It is like wringing out a sponge, squeezing and releasing, until the water runs clear. But the mental effect is what Japanese bathers chase. It is that brief floating, weightless feeling that comes when your body stops trying to regulate its temperature and just surrenders. The mind goes quiet not because you are trying to meditate, but because the body is so occupied with the temperature transition that it has no resources left for anxious thoughts. I have done this on a balcony in Tokyo in January, steam rising off my skin into freezing air. And it is the closest I have ever come to a drug-free, altered state. The cold air hit my wet skin and I gasped, and then something shifted. My thoughts stopped, not slowed, stopped. For maybe 2 minutes. There was nothing in my head but the sensation of cold air and the sight of my own breath condensing in front of me. You do not need a mountain onsen. You just need a bathroom with a window you can open, or a hallway that is cooler than your bathroom. Step out, stand still, breathe, and let the air do its work. The first time you try this, you will want to get back in the hot water immediately. Resist that urge. Stay in the cold for at least 2 minutes. The reward is on the other side of that discomfort. Number 15. They never bring phones or screens into the bathroom. This one hurts. I know it hurts. The idea of a bath without a podcast or a YouTube video or an episode of something playing on a propped-up tablet feels almost wasteful to the American brain. We have been trained to believe that any moment not spent consuming content is a moment lost. We listen to podcasts while we shower, we watch videos while we eat, we scroll while we wait in line. The thought of sitting in a tub with nothing to look at and nothing to listen to feels like a punishment. Japanese bathing culture treats the bathroom as a screen-free sanctuary, and this is not an accident of tradition. It is a deliberate choice rooted in sensory deprivation science. When your eyes and ears are engaged with a screen, your brain remains in an active, processing state. The prefrontal cortex stays lit up, analyzing dialogue, tracking plot points, anticipating what comes next. The default mode network, the part of the brain associated with daydreaming and creative insight, stays suppressed. You cannot enter the restorative parasympathetic state if you are half listening to a true crime podcast. Your nervous system does not know the difference between a stressful conversation and a stressful story. It responds the same way. A study from the University of Tokyo's Department of Psychophysiology found that participants who bathed in silence showed significantly greater increases in alpha brain wave activity, the pattern associated with relaxed wakefulness, compared to those who listened to music or spoken word audio. The silence was not just neutral. It was actively therapeutic. I resisted this for years. I thought a bath without entertainment would be boring. I thought my mind would just spin in anxious circles without something to distract it. What I discovered was the opposite. Without input, my mind wandered to places it had not visited in months. Old memories surfaced, not traumatic ones but gentle, forgotten moments from childhood. The smell of my grandmother's kitchen. The feeling of grass under my feet in a park I had not thought about in decades. Creative ideas for work appeared fully formed, solutions to problems I had been wrestling with for weeks. The silence was not empty, it was fertile. It was like a garden that had been overgrown with weeds, and when I removed the weeds, the flowers had room to grow. Leave the phone in the other room. Not on the bathroom counter, not face down on the toilet tank. In another room entirely, where you cannot hear it buzz. You will survive 20 minutes without it. And you might be surprised by what your mind does when it finally has room to breathe. Number 14. They use a small wooden bucket and pour water over their head before entering. This is the Keikyu ritual, and you will see it at every public bath and onsen in Japan. Before stepping into the communal water, you sit on a stool and use a small wooden bucket to scoop hot water from the bath and pour it repeatedly over your head, shoulders, and back. You do this slowly, deliberately, one bucket at a time. You do not dump it all at once. You pour it over your head and let it run down your face. You pour it over your left shoulder, then your right. You pour it down your spine and feel it trace the curve of your back. This is partly practical, rinsing off any last trace of soap and acclimating your skin to the temperature so the bath does not feel like a shock. But it is also a spiritual threshold. The act of pouring water over your head marks the transition from the outside world, the world of work and stress and noise, into the inner world of the bath. It is a physical signal to your brain that you are crossing a boundary. In Shinto tradition, Water is used for purification before entering a sacred space. The bath, in this context, is the sacred space, and the keikyu is the ritual cleansing that prepares you to enter it. I have a small wooden bucket I bought at a shop in Kappabashi, Tokyo's kitchen district, and using it every night has become one of my favorite parts of the ritual. The bucket is made of unfinished hinoki wood, and when the hot water hits it, it releases a faint, lemony scent that fills the bathroom. The sound of the water hitting the wooden bottom, the weight of it in my hand, the slow, deliberate pour, it all forces me to slow down. You cannot rush pouring water from a bucket. You cannot do it while thinking about your inbox. The water spills if you move too fast. The bucket tips if your mind wanders. The ritual demands presence. If you do not have a wooden bucket, use a plastic measuring cup. It is not about the tool. It is about the intentional act of pouring water over yourself, as a declaration that the day is over and the bath has begun. Say it to yourself if it helps. The day is over. I am here now. This is the boundary and I am crossing it. Number 13. They bathe in deep water, up to the shoulders. The average American bathtub is about 14 inches deep. It is designed for children, or for adults to sit in with their knees poking out of the water like two pink islands. The average Japanese bathtub, called a ofuro, is closer to 24 inches deep, and often deeper. The difference is not just a matter of comfort, it is a matter of hydrostatic pressure. When water covers your body up to your neck, the weight of the water exerts a gentle, even compression on your entire body, from your feet to your chest. This pressure pushes blood out of your extremities and into your core, increasing circulation to your organs and reducing swelling in your legs and ankles. It also takes mechanical load off your joints and spine. In deep water, your body becomes buoyant, your vertebrae decompress, your hips unclench, your knees, which have been bearing your weight all day, finally get to rest. A 2020 study from Kyoto Prefectural University of Medicine measured cardiovascular parameters in subjects bathing in shallow versus deep water, and found that deep immersion produced a 30% greater increase in cardiac output and a more significant drop in blood pressure post-bath. The heart worked more efficiently in deep water because the hydrostatic pressure assisted venous return, pushing blood back toward the chest without the heart having to pump against gravity. But the psychological effect is equally powerful. Deep water feels like a womb. It feels like being held. I noticed this the first time I used a proper ofuro. In my shallow American tub, part of my chest and my knees were always exposed to the cold air, and I was constantly shifting to keep warm. I would rotate like a rotisserie chicken, warming one side while the other side froze. In the deep tub, I could be completely still. My body floated slightly. My breathing slowed without any conscious effort. I closed my eyes and felt weightless, suspended, as if gravity had been temporarily repealed. If you cannot install a deep Japanese tub, you can still maximize what you have. Fill your tub as high as it will safely go. Bend your knees and submerge your shoulders. Get as much of your body under the waterline as possible. Even an extra 2 inches of water makes a difference you can feel. Number 12. They add fresh ginger slices to the bath water. This is a traditional Japanese remedy that sounds like something from a wellness influencer's fever dream, but it has been used for centuries in rural Japan, and modern science now backs it up. Fresh ginger contains compounds called gingerols and shagules, which are lipophilic, meaning they are absorbed through the skin when steeped in hot water. Once absorbed, these compounds act as vasodilators, opening up blood vessels and increasing peripheral circulation. The result is a deep, penetrating warmth that feels different from the surface heat of the water. It feels like the heat is coming from inside your body, radiating outward from your bones rather than pressing in from the outside. A study in the Journal of Physiological Anthropology found that ginger baths significantly increased skin blood flow and raised core body temperature more than plain water baths at the same temperature. The ginger was not just warming the skin, it was triggering an internal thermogenic response. This is especially effective in winter or when you feel a cold coming on. There is a specific sensation that comes with a ginger bath, a kind of gentle sweating that starts at the scalp and works its way down. And you can feel your sinuses opening, your airways clearing, your body mounting a quiet defense against whatever virus was trying to take hold. My Japanese friend taught me to slice a 2-inch piece of fresh ginger thinly, no need to peel it, and toss it directly into the hot water about 10 minutes before I get in. The bathroom fills with a subtle, spicy, earthy scent that is nothing like a scented candle. It is grounding and slightly medicinal, the smell of a kitchen in winter, the smell of a remedy that predates pharmacies. When I step out, my skin is pink and tingling in a way that feels genuinely therapeutic, not just hot. The warmth stays with me for an hour after the bath, a slow-burning internal heat that makes a cold bedroom feel cozy. Do not use powdered ginger. It will clump and make a mess, turning your bath into a murky sludge. Fresh slices only. They float on the surface and are easy to scoop out when you are done. Number 11. They practice hara hachibu even in the bath. Hara hachibu is the famous Okinawan principle of eating until you are 80% full. It is one of the core philosophies behind the extraordinary longevity of Okinawans, who have some of the highest concentrations of centenarians on Earth. But the Japanese apply this same philosophy to bathing. They do not soak until they are pruned and dizzy and desperate to get out. They soak until the tension has released, and then they get out, even if the water is still warm and inviting. They leave the bath wanting just a little more, which makes them look forward to tomorrow's bath rather than feeling saturated and done. Oversoaking is a common Western mistake. We stay in the bath for 45 minutes, an hour because we feel like we are supposed to, or because we are trying to extract maximum value from the experience, or because we have been told that more of a good thing is always better. But prolonged immersion in hot water places stress on the cardiovascular system. Your heart rate stays elevated. Your blood pressure drops. You start to feel lethargic rather than restored. You stand up and your head spins. You have to sit on the edge of the tub for a minute before you can walk safely. That is not relaxation. That is mild heat exhaustion. The Japanese approach is to soak for 10 to 15 minutes, get out for a brief cool down, and then get back in for another 10 minutes if desired. This interval method, hot, cold, prevents the body from becoming overwhelmed and actually deepens the relaxation response. Each re-entry into the hot water feels like a fresh wave of relief, rather than a continuation of a stale soak. I started timing my soaks after learning this, and discovered that my sweet spot was exactly 12 minutes. After 12 minutes, the tension in my shoulders was gone, my jaw had unclenched, my breathing had slowed. After 20, I was just stewing, and the benefits had plateaued. Learning to listen to that 80% signal, that quiet inner voice that says enough, is a skill that transfers to every other area of life. It teaches you to recognize the point of diminishing returns before you cross it. Get out while the water still feels like a gift, not a prison. Number 10. They use a specific Japanese washcloth called a goshi towel. The goshi towel is not a loofah. It is not a poof. It is not one of those plastic mesh balls that hangs in your shower and grows mold in its crevices. It is a long, narrow, slightly rough textured cloth, traditionally made from nylon or a nylon-cotton blend, designed to exfoliate the entire body with a gentle but thorough friction. The name literally comes from the Japanese onomatopoeia for scrubbing, the sound of fabric moving back and forth against skin. Every Japanese household has these, and children are taught from a very young age how to use them, stretching the cloth behind their backs and sawing it back and forth to reach every inch of skin. It is a skill passed down through generations. A mother teaching a daughter how to hold the ends and pull it across the shoulder blades. The exfoliation is not cosmetic. It is functional. By removing dead skin cells and stimulating lymphatic flow, the goshi towel improves circulation and helps the body eliminate waste products through the skin, which is, after all, the body's largest eliminative organ. When your pores are clogged with dead cells, your skin cannot breathe, cannot release toxins, cannot regulate temperature efficiently. A study from the Japanese Society of Balneology, Climatology, and Physical Medicine noted that mechanical skin stimulation during bathing increased blood flow to the dermis by up to 40%. That is a significant circulatory boost from something as simple as scrubbing. But the reason I love the goshi towel is not the science, it is the ritual. The length of the cloth forces you to use both hands. It forces you to slow down and pay attention to your body in a way that a quick loofah scrub never does. You have to feel your way across your own back, noticing the tight spots, the knots, the places where stress has accumulated. I bought my first one at a 100 yen shop in Kyoto, which is the equivalent of a dollar store, and it has outlasted every fancy bath product I have ever purchased. It does not fray. It does not develop that musty smell that loofahs get. It just works night after night, doing exactly what it was designed to do. Number 9. They keep the bathroom door closed and let the steam build. In American homes, we tend to crack the bathroom door or run the exhaust fan to keep the mirror from fogging up. We treat steam as an inconvenience, a byproduct to be managed and eliminated. In Japanese homes, the bathroom door stays firmly shut, and the steam is allowed to accumulate until the entire room becomes a warm, humid chamber. The mirror fogs over completely. The walls bead with condensation. The air becomes thick and heavy, almost tropical. This is not an oversight. It is a deliberate feature of the Japanese bathhouse experience, recreated at home. The steam carries trace amounts of whatever you have added to the water, whether it is Unohana minerals, ginger, or hinoki wood oils. And breathing that steam delivers those compounds directly into your respiratory system. It is a form of passive aromatherapy that does not require a diffuser or a candle. The warm, moist air also opens up your sinuses, relaxes your bronchial passages, and hydrates your mucous membranes, which is why a steamy bath is one of the oldest remedies for colds and congestion in nearly every culture. If you have ever sat in a steamy bathroom with a sick child, you already understand this principle intuitively. But there is also a psychological effect. A room full of steam feels cocoon-like. It obscures sharp edges, it muffles sound, the hard corners of the bathroom soften. The light diffuses into a gentle glow. It turns the bathroom into a sensory deprivation space that signals to your brain that the outside world has been temporarily suspended. You cannot see the clutter on the counter. You cannot see the towel that needs washing. All you can see is the soft white mist, and all you can feel is the warmth. I have a tiny bathroom in my apartment, barely larger than a closet, but when I close the door and let the steam build, it feels expansive, like a cave, like a secret. The smallness becomes a feature rather than a flaw. Turn off the fan. Keep the door shut. Let the steam do its work. Your mirror will fog up. That is a sign you are doing it right. Number 8. They bathe in complete silence or with only the sound of water. This is an extension of the no screens rule, but it goes deeper. In a Japanese bath, the only acceptable sounds are the gentle splash of water, the drip of condensation, and perhaps the distant chirp of crickets if you are in the countryside. There is no music. There is no white noise machine. There is no conversation or very little. If words are exchanged, they are soft and few. A quiet observation about the temperature of the water. A murmured acknowledgement of the day's end. This silence is not awkward, it is reverent, and it is supported by a growing body of research on the effects of auditory deprivation on the nervous system. When your ears are not processing sound, your brain downshifts from beta waves, associated with active thinking and stress, to alpha and theta waves, associated with relaxation and creativity. Silence, actual silence, has been shown in studies to reduce cortisol and lower blood pressure more effectively than relaxing music. Music, even the most soothing ambient track, still requires processing. The brain still listens, still categorizes, still responds. True silence asks nothing of you. I remember visiting a small onsen in the mountains outside Nagano, where the only sound was a bamboo pipe trickling water into a stone basin. The pipe had been placed there deliberately, a traditional garden feature called a shishiodoshi, designed to create a single, resonant note every few seconds when the bamboo filled and tipped. I sat in that hot water for 20 minutes and heard nothing but the water and my own breathing, punctuated by that occasional hollow note. And when I got out, my mind was quieter than it had been in months. The silence had done something that no amount of meditation had ever achieved. You do not need a mountain onsen. You just need to resist the urge to fill the silence. Do not play music. Do not listen to a meditation guide. Do not narrate your thoughts. Just sit and listen to the water. Listen to the sound of your own breath. Let the silence be the soundtrack. Number 7. They use hinoki wood oils or hinoki bath accessories. Hinoki is a Japanese cypress tree, and its wood and oil have been used in Japanese bathing culture for over 1,000 years. Walk into any traditional onsen or high-end Japanese home, and you will smell it immediately. A bright, lemony, slightly camphor scent that is simultaneously energizing and calming. It is the smell of Japanese temples, of sacred spaces, of ancient forests preserved indoors. Hinoki wood contains natural compounds called phytoncides, which are antimicrobial and which have been shown in Japanese forest bathing research to reduce stress hormones and boost immune function. When you walk through a hinoki forest, the trees release these compounds into the air as a defense against insects and rot. And when you inhale them, your body responds by lowering cortisol and increasing the activity of natural killer cells, the immune cells that target viruses and tumors. When you bathe in a hinoki wooden tub, or add a few drops of hinoki essential oil to your bathwater, you are essentially bringing the forest into your bathroom. The hot water volatilizes the oils, releasing them into the steam, and you breathe them in with every slow inhale. A study from the Nippon Medical School found that inhaling hinoki phytoncides significantly reduced salivary cortisol and increased natural killer cell activity, a marker of immune function. The first time I stayed at a ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn, the entire bathroom was made of hinoki wood. The tub, the walls, the floor, even the small stool I sat on to wash. The scent was so powerful and so pleasant that I felt my shoulders drop before I even got in the water. I stood in the doorway and just breathed for a full minute, feeling something in my chest loosen that I had not realized was tight. You can buy hinoki oil online. Add 3 to 5 drops to your bath, or better yet, buy a small hinoki wood stool or bath mat. The steam releases the oils naturally, and the scent lingers in your bathroom for hours, so that every time you walk past the door, you get a faint reminder of the forest. Number 6. They view bathing as a social ritual, but a silent one. This one confuses Westerners. In Japan, families bathe together. Parents and young children, sometimes siblings, friends will visit an onsen together and soak side by side. But they do not treat it as a social hour in the way Americans treat a hot tub party. There is no loud laughter, no splashing, no drinks balanced on the edge of the tub. There are no anecdotes shouted over the sound of jets. The social connection is communicated through shared presence, not through words. Sitting in hot water next to someone you love, in complete silence, is a profoundly intimate experience. It says, I am comfortable enough with you that I do not need to fill the space with talk. I can just be here with you, and that is enough. This practice teaches children from a very young age that closeness does not require constant verbal communication, and that silence shared is not the same as silence alone. A child who grows up bathing with a parent in quiet calm learns that physical presence is a form of love, that you do not need to perform or entertain to be worthy of someone's time. I have bathed with a close friend at a public bath in Tokyo, and we said maybe 10 words to each other in an hour. A comment about the temperature, a quiet observation about the light coming through the window. But I felt closer to her afterward than I did after a 3-hour dinner full of conversation. The silence had created a container for something deeper than talk. The lesson here is not that you must bathe with your family. The lesson is that the bath can be a space for quiet connection rather than solitary escape. Even sitting in the bathroom while your partner bathes, just being present, can shift the dynamic of an evening. You do not need to speak, you just need to be there. Number 5. They end every bath with a cold water rinse. This is the KQ ritual in reverse, and it is the part that most Westerners skip because it sounds unpleasant. After soaking in hot water, you stand up and pour cold water over your body. Or turn the shower to the coldest setting and rinse for 10 to 15 seconds. The immediate sensation is a shock. Your breath catches. Your skin tightens. You might make an involuntary sound, a gasp or a yelp. And then, within seconds, a wave of warmth spreads through your body as your circulation surges to compensate. Your blood vessels, which had dilated in the heat, now constrict rapidly, and then dilate again as your body works to restore warmth. This cold rinse closes your pores, which prevents the moisture loss that leads to dry, itchy skin after a hot bath. When your pores stay open after a hot soak, the moisture in your skin evaporates rapidly into the dry air of your bathroom, leaving you feeling tight and parched. The cold rinse seals everything in. But more importantly, it triggers a massive release of norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter that improves mood, focus, and resilience to stress. Cold exposure research from the University of Osaka has documented significant increases in norepinephrine levels following even brief cold water immersion. Increases of 200 to 300% that persist for hours after the exposure ends. The Japanese have known this intuitively for centuries. The cold rinse is not a punishment, it is the final seal. It locks in the heat, locks in the minerals, and sends you out of the bathroom feeling alert and energized rather than sluggish and overheated. There is a clarity that comes after a cold rinse, a sharpness of mind that feels like the opposite of the post-bath lethargy I used to experience. I dreaded this for the first week. I would stand in the tub, hand on the cold tap, bargaining with myself. Just 5 seconds, just 3. Now I cannot imagine ending a bath without it. The cold water feels like a reset button for my entire nervous system. It is the moment when the relaxation transforms from a passive state into an active vitality. Number 4. They keep the bathroom clean and uncluttered as a sacred space. The average American bathroom is a chaos of shampoo bottles, razors, half-used products, children's bath toys, and a wet towel on the floor. The counter is crowded with skincare products, most of them expired or nearly empty. The edge of the tub is lined with bottles that have not been touched in months. The average Japanese bathroom is sparse. A single bottle of unscented body soap, a single bottle of shampoo, a washcloth hanging neatly, nothing else. This is not just an aesthetic preference. It is a philosophical one, rooted in the Japanese concept of ma, or negative space. Ma is the space between things, the emptiness that gives shape to the objects it surrounds. In a cluttered room, there is no ma. Every surface is occupied, every corner is filled, and the eye has nowhere to rest. Clutter creates visual noise, and visual noise creates mental noise. You cannot relax in a space that is constantly reminding you of tasks undone and products unused. Every bottle on the counter is a silent to-do item. Use me, replace me, throw me away. A study from the Princeton Neuroscience Institute found that physical clutter competes for your attention and reduces your brain's ability to focus and process information. The visual cortex becomes overwhelmed, and that overwhelm spills over into your emotional state. When you strip the bathroom down to only the essentials, you transform it from a storage room into a sanctuary. I did this 3 years ago. I threw away or hid every product I had not used in a month. I put my soap in a simple wooden dish. I hung a single piece of art on the wall, a small print of a Hokusai wave. The change in how I felt walking into that room was immediate and profound. It felt calm before I even turned on the water. The room itself had become a signal to my nervous system. You are entering a different kind of space now. Leave your stress at the door. Number 3, they practice mindful breathing while soaking. The Japanese do not call it meditation. They do not call it breathwork. They do not give it a branded name or package it as a technique you need to learn from an app. They just breathe. But if you watch someone in an onsen, you will notice a pattern. Slow, deep inhales through the nose, even slower exhales through the mouth, often audible almost a sigh. The exhale is longer than the inhale, sometimes twice as long. And it carries a subtle sound, a soft release of air that seems to carry tension with it. The heat naturally encourages deeper breathing because your body requires more oxygen when your core temperature rises. But the intentional slowing of the breath takes this physiological response and turns it into a powerful relaxation tool. Diaphragmatic breathing, the kind where your belly expands on the inhale, activates the vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem down through your chest and into your abdomen. When the vagus nerve is stimulated, it triggers a cascade of parasympathetic responses. Heart rate drops, blood pressure lowers, stress hormones decrease. It is the body's master relaxation switch, and deep breathing is the easiest way to flip it. A 2022 study from the University of Tokyo Hospital found that patients who practice slow, deep breathing during warm water immersion showed significantly greater reductions in anxiety scores compared to those who breathed normally. The combination of heat and breath was more powerful than either alone. The practice is simple. Sit in the water, close your eyes. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for a count of 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 6. Do this 10 times. Feel the water rise and fall against your chest as your lungs expand and contract. You will feel your body sink deeper into the water. Your muscles letting go of tension you did not know you were holding. Tension that has been there so long it has become your baseline. The first time you do this, you might feel a little lightheaded. That is normal. It means you are actually breathing deeply for the first time all day. Number 2, they treat bathing as a daily medical practice, not a luxury. This is the foundational mindset shift that makes all the other habits stick. In Japan, bathing is not a treat you give yourself after a particularly hard day. It is not a Sunday night indulgence. It is not a reward for productivity. It is a nightly medical treatment, as routine and non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. You do not skip brushing your teeth because you are tired. You do not decide you do not deserve clean teeth because you did not accomplish enough that day. You just do it because it is maintenance, because your body requires it. Japanese doctors prescribe bathing for everything from lower back pain to insomnia to mild depression. It is not alternative medicine. It is not a folk remedy. It is a standard, evidence-based recommendation that physicians write on prescription pads. The Japanese Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare has formally recognized balneotherapy, the therapeutic use of bathing, as a valid medical treatment modality. And the data supports this. Japan has one of the lowest rates of heart disease in the developed world, and multiple epidemiological studies have linked regular hot water immersion to improved cardiovascular outcomes. A large-scale study out of Osaka University tracked over 30,000 adults for nearly 2 decades and found that those who bathed nearly every day had a 28% lower risk of cardiovascular disease and a 26% lower risk of stroke compared to those who bathed twice a week or less. Those are not small numbers. Those are the kind of risk reductions that pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars trying to achieve. When you reframe the bath as medicine, you stop skipping it. You stop seeing it as a time waster. You stop feeling guilty for taking 20 minutes to do something that feels good. You start protecting that 20 minutes the way you would protect a doctor's appointment. I made this shift 5 years ago, and I have missed maybe a dozen baths since. Even on nights when I am exhausted. Even on nights when I get home late, and every fiber of my being wants to collapse into bed. I get in the water, because I know what happens if I do not. I sleep worse, I wake up stiff. I carry yesterday's stress into today, and the day after that, and the day after that, until the stress has compounded into something that feels permanent. The bath is not a luxury. It is the cheapest, most accessible form of preventive medicine available to you, and it is sitting in your home right now, waiting. Number 1, they never ever rush. This is the habit that underlies all the others, and it is the hardest one for the Western mind to adopt. The Japanese bath has no time limit. There is no clock ticking. There is no next task pulling at your attention. The bath is the destination. It is not a stop on the way to something else. It is not a box to check so you can move on to the next item on your list. When you rush a bath, you negate its entire purpose. The nervous system cannot downshift if you are mentally calculating how many minutes you have left before you need to get out and finish the dishes. The muscles cannot release if you are already planning the next thing, already composing tomorrow's email in your head, already running through the schedule for the morning. The Japanese approach is to create a buffer around the bath, at least 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after, where nothing is scheduled, nothing is urgent, and the only thing that exists is the transition from the day world to the night world. This is not laziness. It is a sophisticated understanding of how the human nervous system actually works. Relaxation is not a switch you can flip. It is a state you must ease into and ease out of. You cannot go from a high-stress meeting to a deeply relaxed state in 60 seconds. The nervous system needs time to downshift, the way a car engine needs time to cool after a long drive. The buffer before the bath gives your mind permission to stop. The buffer after the bath lets the relaxation settle into your bones before sleep claims you. I learned this from an elderly woman in a small onsen town in Kyushu. She moved so slowly in the bath that it was almost hypnotic to watch. She poured water over her shoulders, one small bucket at a time, pausing between each pour as if she were listening to something I could not hear. She breathed deeply between each pour, her shoulders rising and falling with a rhythm that seemed to have its own internal clock. She closed her eyes and sat in complete stillness for what felt like an eternity, her face smooth and untroubled, her hands resting on her knees beneath the water. And when she finally stood up and wrapped herself in a thin cotton robe, her face was so peaceful it looked like she had just woken from the best sleep of her life. I asked her through a translator how long she bathed each night. She smiled and said, "Until I am ready to stop, not until the timer goes off. Not until I have to, until I am ready. Try that tonight. Do not set a timer." Do not think about what comes next. Do not calculate the opportunity cost of 20 minutes of stillness. Just get in the water and stay there until you feel the shift. You will know it when it happens. Your jaw will unclench. Your breath will deepen. Your thoughts will slow from a rapid current to a gentle drift. And you will understand, finally, why the Japanese have built an entire culture around this one simple, sacred act. It is not about getting clean. It is about coming home to yourself.